On January the 16th, I appeared before the Board of Supervisors meeting to ask for their assistance in two very important crime prevention measures. The first was a resolution that I needed them to adopt as a board to allow us to move forward to become a certified crime prevention community. This is a program that's administered by the Department of Criminal Justice Services in Virginia that is extremely comprehensive, involves law enforcement, social services, the business community, and many local volunteers to develop a 12-point plan to decrease crime in York County. You'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. The second program that I talked to them about was a camera radar enforcement program that I believe is necessary to enforce speeding issues in our school zones. You will now see my presentation to the Board of Supervisors about this very important issue.
We're now going to call on Sheriff Ron Montgomery to come talk to us on a matter regarding camera speed monitoring and enforcement in school crossing zones, which have become something that we need to pay a lot of attention to. So, Sheriff Montgomery, thank you for joining us tonight.
I'd like to take a few minutes tonight to describe what I believe to be a serious public safety issue. I'm going to give you what I believe to be the solution to it, and at the end, I'm going to describe to you what I'm going to ask you as a board to do to help me with this. When the school year began this year, the Sheriff's Office, began to receive a larger amount than normal of speeding concerns in school zones when the yellow lights were flashing. So I started to look at this problem, and there is a specific code section in Virginia that allows a locality to enter into an agreement with a vendor to install radar cameras that enforce speed limits. So I reached out to one of these companies at no cost to the county or to the Sheriff's Office, and I asked them to do a survey of the 5 schools that we had been receiving the most complaints about. And I know the board's aware there are 19 schools in York County, so this survey that I'm getting ready to describe to you only addressed 5 schools, the 5 that I received the most complaints about. So at the end of November, these radar cameras were installed at 5 different localities, 5 different schools in York County. They were active when the yellow lights were flashing and school was in session in both the morning and evening session. So when school buses were coming onto the campus and the employees were coming onto the campus and parents are driving their kids to campus, and in the evening when the reverse was occurring, when people were leaving. At the end of the 5 days, I received a report from this company that I was even shocked at the numbers. In a 5-day period of 5 schools, there were 3,725 moving violations where the people were speeding in excess of 11 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. So if it was a 25-mile-an-hour zone for schools, they were doing 36 miles an hour or above. At York High School, then they would have been 46 miles an hour or above, and so on. The company that actually did this, when they sent me the results, they said that they had actually been so surprised themselves that they asked their people to review the results before they sent them, and they verified that that was the case. So in a 5-day period, we had 3,725 cars going through 5 school zones, morning and evening, exceeding the posted speed limit in the school zone of 11 miles per hour or more. So my solution to this is, because we have 19 schools, we would have to do some more surveys. I believe that we need to enter into an agreement that's provided by law to install these radar enforcement cameras in the school districts. And we would come up with a number after some more consultation. But I'm going to guess would be between 5 and 7 to begin with. Now, the result of this would be that the violators would receive a civil penalty, a summons of $100 through the mail, much like the red light cameras that many of the jurisdictions around us are already using. In my discussions with localities across the Commonwealth of Virginia that already have these systems, many of these localities have seen reductions in their speed issues as much as 92%, which is clearly the goal that I'm looking for, is to reduce the number of speeders significantly that are in our school zones when children and people are being brought to school and leaving school every day. So at a later date, I can go into the details of how this program works, but what I'm asking this board to do is that a future board meeting in the not-too-distant future is to adopt a county ordinance that would allow me to move forward and enter into an agreement through the county procurement process to select a company to install these and then have them permanently placed and start the process of trying to reduce the number of violators that we have. Now, the way the program will work is there will be a lot of campaigning and a lot of information put out by my agency through our Facebook and social media, and I'm sure that we'll collaborate with the York County media as well to do this. There would be a 30-day grace period once the cameras were installed, and the public would be aware of that, so that if you got a violation or you committed a violation during the first 30 days, you would receive a warning notice in the mail that you had violated the speed limit by more than 11 miles an hour in a school zone. But after the warning period was over, we would then have one more announcement and another campaign saying, on this date, this system will go live, and from here forward, you will receive a summons in the mail for a $100 civil fine. Now, the difference today is, if I had the manpower and I could put a deputy at each one of these school zones, you would be written a ticket under the 46.2 Code of Virginia for speeding in a school zone, which would probably cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to $350. It would go against your insurance, and it would also count points against you on your driver's license in Virginia. This is a $100 civil fine that does not count toward your driver's license points, nor does it influence your insurance. So the goal being to reduce the number of violators in the school zones, thus making the school zones much safer for our kids and our families.
You had already entered the school zone. There was a sign that says school at the top, it says 25, and then the time period 3 to 4.
So again, what I'm going to be asking you for is your support of an ordinance that will be coming before you in the not too distant future that allows me to move forward to begin this process. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sheriff Montgomery.
Yes, Sheriff, could the cameras be movable? So that you're talking about 19 schools, could you not have X number of cameras and put them different places at different times?
These are all stationary. They're placed them and you can't move them around.
Is there an option?
Not with the two companies right now that are dealing in Virginia. They're all permanently placed. And matter of fact, they have people with the Virginia Department of Transportation that works out the permitting process for that as well. So they're not portable at this point.
What would the cost be to the county?
The county has absolutely no cost. Both of these companies that we're dealing with come in and install these cameras at no cost to the county. The initial upfront cost is zero.
Why?
Because they are going to receive a portion, depending on which company we go through, of the fines that are assessed.
I see, and where, they will receive a portion of it, and where will the other portion go?
It's returned to by statute, it comes to the general fund of York County.
General fund. Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Holroyd.
Yes, Sheriff, that was very interesting. But there's one concern that I have around school children, and that's the number of violators of people going past buses with the school bus red lights on. Have you considered that issue as well?
We are in discussion with the school division at this point, and they are going to be looking at several companies as well to put the cameras on the stop arms of the school buses. So yes, we are also in discussion with them at the same time we're doing this.
Mr. Jury.
Well, when you shared that data with me some time ago, I was pretty flabbergasted that we have that kind of violating going on, and I don't think you shared with the public that it was way worse than what you would have thought, and I think even the company that did it said it was way worse than they have seen. So obviously we do have a problem around our school systems that has to be addressed. I was just curious what 5 schools that you guys put this on.
Bruton High School, York High School, Dare Elementary, Seaford Elementary, Tab Middle.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Shepherd.
Are you familiar with the fact that we have a entry into a school zone on Big Bethel Road that's inside it's inside the lights? In other words,
Yes.
you can turn in, and so there's no warning. So what kind of warning are we going to give to the public that, hey, look, you're on county candid camera?
The statute requires that signage has to be placed at least 1,000 feet prior to entering the zones. So we'll make sure that there's adequate signage at each one of the schools, however many that we determine that we're going to use this system with, that 1,000 feet prior to you entering the school zone, there is a sign that states entering camera-enforced school zone.
Okay.
That's required by the Virginia statute.
And related to this, how did we come up with a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone?
Well, there are some schools that have 25-mile-an-hour zones, and there's 35, and then Bruton is 45.
Okay, and so the people are in Bruton, they were exceeding 45 miles an hour?
The Bruton violators were exceeding 56 miles an hour.
Jeez, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I can't recall if you mentioned that part of the process is that each violation gets reviewed by a deputized officer before it goes to the person that was
That's
speeding,
correct. The way the system works is all of the violations, the photographs of the license plates, along with the DMV information, would be sent back to my office. I have to have a certified law enforcement officer, a deputy, reviews each one of the photographs to show that the photograph of the license plate matches the information in DMV. When that deputy approves it, then it's sent back to the company, whichever one we decide on, to then issue the civil summons through the mail.
Okay.
And they have 30 days to pay it or to appeal it.
Where do they pay?
They'll pay the company. There'll be,
It goes-
with the form, just like the red light
Okay.
notices we get around here, there'll be a form where you can go online or you can mail it back to the company, and then they receive the summons, the civil fine.
They don't come to the county offices, they pay the company, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and you touched upon it a little bit. In addition to making sure school buses aren't run into, or there aren't some horrible accidents across, school property, the other aspect of it is when you have people running 11 miles over and greater than the cars around them, the closing rate is so drastic that people get into accidents because they look to see and they're clear, but by the time they move, that car running 11, 15 miles over their speed limit is suddenly there. And then you're having these accidents just because people aren't aware of a speeder like that. So we got to slow them down when so many people are trying to adhere to the speed limit, and then you have the outliers that's causing the problems.
Well, in particular, at Dairy Elementary School, where you have the crossing zone and the crossing guards with those curves, that if you're running 11 miles an hour and they're trying to get kids across the street, that's extremely dangerous.
Yep, very much so. Okay. All right.
I have another question.
Yep, Mr.
I forgot to ask you. Forgot to ask, these mics pop on and off. When you and I talked, I questioned the vetting process. Could you go over that a little bit with the two companies that you're considering for the public?
Both companies essentially or have the same type of equipment and software. There's very little difference in that. Both of them use LiDAR radar, which the advantage of that is to the individual that works for me that has to validate this is there will be a red dot that he'll be able to see in the picture to show that that is in fact the car that was picked up by the radar. Also, the way these companies work is they ensure that the radar doesn't start working until the lights have been on at least 5 minutes. So there's no excuse that the lights weren't on when you came through there. We will work with the school divisions as far as the timing. And then the two companies that are being used, I've talked to several localities that have used either one in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's what it's going to come down to is through our procurement process with the county, which one our finance people or our purchasing people believe to be the better contract for York County. And I've seen some subtle differences in the two of them that if I would ask, I would make recommendations on, based on the conversations I've had with other localities as well.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Ms. Shepherd, you have another question?
Yeah, just follow up. I know that we had the the state has approved the red light cameras at the traffic lights for communities to do that if they want to install those. So do we have the state, the authority from the state to be able to do this as supervisors?
There is a Virginia code that right now authorizes the locality to enter into this agreement. I've been working with the county attorney, Mr. Hill, and it's his opinion and his belief that there is a much better way to do this. In his conversations with other localities, you would be asked, I would be asking you to adopt an ordinance, a York County ordinance, that basically mirrors the state statute and allows us to move forward on that.
Ms. Noel?
I'm just curious about the financial aspects of it, and I'm wondering, of course, companies would not get into this business unless they were going to make a profit. Is there a minimum amount that they are expecting to earn to make it viable for them to provide the equipment to you in an annual basis?
Well, I'm sure that there is for
You
their
haven't gotten to
purposes,
that
but-
point yet to know whether that was. And if you were to be very successful in your campaign to slow people down, then you would have less people running over 11 miles per hour.
Well, that's
of
the
speed
overall-
limit, and that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
So if you get to a certain point, is there something that you can pull back and take them away?
Sure. I would like to think that we would be so successful that 3 years from now, I'd say, come and get your equipment. I don't need them anymore because we're not having the issue.
That would be in the contract that you sign with them to see.
Correct.
So have you seen any contracts so far?
Yes.
Of what they want, and is that a possibility in the contract?
I don't know of a locality yet that has had any removed. They've had as much as a 92% reduction
Right.
in the number of, but the companies are not pulling out.
Interesting. That's what I'm just asking you, whether it would be a part of the contract that they already have.
I haven't seen that in any of the two contracts that I've looked at yet.
We're just assuming that if it drops to a certain level, that it would not be financially viable for them anymore, and they would just pull out.
I would love to think that that would happen.
So would I. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sheriff Montgomery. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to that resolution ordinance when y'all put that together.
Thank you.